Good morning. Welcome to College Cast. This is the podcast keeping money in your pocket during your educational journey. And I'm your tour guide host, Money Michelle, navigating you to nuggets of information worth thousands of dollars. Remember, this is a live show. Today is June 15th, I think. You know, we always are off on a day or two, but we are live today as long as it's June 15th. So you can call in. It's 813 444 9588. You can also always email me at moneymichelle03@gmail.com. So before we get started today, we know it's Father's Day weekend, so we have to, of course, do shout outs. And I have to, of course, start with my own dad because without him, obviously, I would not be here. So thank you, David Ragland, for helping to give me birth. Certainly do appreciate it. Happy Father's Day. Now, on to my next favorite dad, Robert Blaylock, who without him, I also would not be here because this was an amazing birthday gift that he gave me for a birthday present way back in September. So I like to say that this is my community service and celebration of doing one of my most favorite things, which is helping the community learn about college. So thank you, Mr. Robert Blaylock, and thank you for being such a wonderful father to our two children. You are absolutely amazing, and that's why I made you drive in here today. I'm waving at you in the window. He's giving me the eye like, what is she talking about? Then another huge shout out. He doesn't know this is coming, but Bezel, without you, this show also would obviously not be possible. And he is an amazing dad who has done amazing things with his own children. But most of all, he sits back here in the producer spot every single Saturday. Sometimes we just do reruns. But when he is here, well, he's always here. Sometimes I'm not here. He's always here making sure that College Cast comes to you. And with that, I truly say thank you very, very much, Bezel. And now to another very special Father's Day shout out. We have a guest today, Miss Serena Eccles. And before she even gets started, or even before I introduce her, you shout out to your own daddy.
Yes, I would like to shout out Darnell Eccles. He is the best father ever. I love him so much, and a lot of my personality and my wisdom I get from him. And he's a great gardener too. So, and I get that from him with my environmentalism. So, I love you, Daddy.
Oh, that's super cool. The green thumb and all of your environmental experience comes from your dad. That makes it even perfect to be doing this show on Father's Day. Now, Serena, before we ever get started, and I promise I am going to introduce you, but the show, College Cash, is all about making sure every single time you watch this show, you will always know how to apply for college, at least just the basics. So I like to run through what I call my Fantastic Five, and we'll do it really fast today because literally I could talk the Fantastic Five the whole hour, every show. But I'm not going to do that today, this time. We're going to have fresh new material. But I am going to say, remember, your fee waiver, so important. Any and everyone out there, no matter what school district you're in, you should always check to see if you have a fee waiver. The fee waiver allows you to apply to school for free on the Common App. It also can help you. Obviously, the way you get it is through free and reduced lunch. So that's how you need to find out if your school district offers free and reduced lunch. Fill it out. Even in Hillsborough County, there's a great big red stop sign that says if your school offers free lunch, you don't need to fill it out. That is not true if you are a senior. Trust me, believe me, I have checked multiple times. I've complained about the stop sign on the site. I have double checked that if you're a senior, you do still need to fill out the free and reduced lunch fee waiver in order to get your fee waivers for your applications, for your SATs, for your ACTs. All right, second Fantastic Five, fill out the Common App. It's summertime, so it's a tad bit too late, but that thing is going to be opening up. For those of you who are juniors going into your senior year, we'll talk extensively about the Common App coming up in August, September timeframe. Also, if you don't know your counselors right now and you've seen College Cash before, shame on you. Find your counselor. Figure out who your counselor is. I want to give a quick shout out to Ms. Tazwell from Middleton High School. She actually stopped by and talked with us at Elevate Tampa Bay. So certainly want to say good morning to Ms. Tazwell. Thank you for enlightening us about all of the fun things that counselors can do at Middleton High School. So find your counselor. You'll need them to find your transcripts and all kinds of other stuff. Forward your test scores. You got to take the test, meaning the ACT or the SAT, in order to be able to forward those scores. So make sure you do that. And FAFSA, FAFSA, FAFSA. FAFSA. I like to say it's our favorite F word. And now that I've quickly run through those fantastic five, I'm so excited to introduce our guest. You got a glimpse of her just a moment ago as she actually revealed some great information that her father has inspired her through this amazing journey. So I am going to read to you everything about her because your bio is amazing. So it's a little long, but I like it, and I'm going to say all of it. So listen, Serena Eccles is an environmental scientist and anthropologist with a passion for placemaking, placekeeping, and justice for minority and marginalized communities. She is originally from Chicago. Another big shout out to my husband from Chicago. Serena is an advocate for the environment and environmental justice who works to foster a deep understanding of the symbiotic relationship between humans and nature. She graduated from Spelman College in 2023 with a BS in environmental science. During her time at Spelman, she educated all ages about the environment through invasive species removal, forest restoration, and sustainability, while stewarding nature spaces at the Outdoor Activity Center with the West Atlanta Watershed Alliance. Currently, we have her now. She is in Tampa pursuing a Master's of Applied Anthropology and Public Health at the University of South Florida. Serena's graduate research emphasizes the importance of community engagement and collaborative design between scientists, engineers, and community residents in green infrastructure interventions. Let's give a big warm welcome to Serena Eccles. Serena, this is absolutely amazing. So I wanted to read your entire bio because now I need you to break all that down. What in the world, for those of us who are the students out there, moms out there, parents out there, they just heard all of that. And a lot of it probably just went, whoop. So start at the very beginning. First and foremost, how in the world did you even decide about the environmental scientist and anthropologist part?
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me here on this show today, and I truly, truly appreciate it. I'm so happy to meet you. You're such a bright and amazing soul. And so, first and foremost, when I went to Spelman College, what inspired me to go to Spelman, my sister, she graduated from Spelman in 2019, and she's my role model. She's the best person ever. Shout out to Christina. And then when I went there, I wanted to be some type of doctor, a radiologist, cardiologist, some type of doctor. However, I took an environmental science class during my freshman year, and I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. Wow. And then growing up, I gardened with, of course, my grandmother and my father, and so I was like, this is the right fit for me. And then when I was going into my senior year at Spelman, I went to USF for a summer program, and it was about urban water sustainability, but it was specifically in like anthropology. And anthropology is the study of people past, present, and future. So like archaeology is a part of anthropology. And then what I do is cultural anthropology. So it's like more so doing interviews with the people that live in the community because they have really great information about the different environmental things that are going on in their neighborhood. So yeah.
That is an absolutely excellent explanation. I love the fact that you explained exactly what anthropology is and the fact that you do interviews. So basically, if I had to, in my mind, what I'm hearing is you basically get to go into the community, interview the people who are living there, and talk with them about their environment and how it's affecting them and what they would hopefully want to change or ideas that you could give them to make things better. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And that's also a part of environmental justice. So environmental justice is providing justice for all people, no matter what your identity is, no matter what. And a lot of environmental justices happen in communities of color and marginalized communities because of like systems that are set in place. So it's my job to fight these environmental injustices through environmental science and anthropology.
I think that when we first met, we talked a little bit about freeways and how a lot of the larger freeways, highways, busy streets, when they're being built, sometimes tend to go through your minority communities.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So one of the research projects I'm working on at the University of South Florida College of Public Health is we're putting air monitors in low income minority communities around the highways to basically collect data on the particles and the pollution that's in the air. So we can basically use this data to prove that a lot of these communities are disproportionately impacted by highway pollution. And this has adverse health effects such as asthma and respiratory issues. But first, you need the data. And so we're like, with community organizations and we're banding with them. We're like, hey, would you like to host an air monitor? And then you can use this data to educate your youth here, but then also we can use this data for like academia and to prove how a lot of the health disparities are not necessarily generational. It's because of our built and natural environment and the pollution that's in our built and natural environment.
You know, this is so informative on so many ways. One, you're currently looking for people to host these air monitors in Tampa.
Yes.
Okay, so first and foremost, that's one thing that you need to listen up for, my viewers out there. If someone like Serena gives you a call and they're wanting you to host an air monitor, say yes. So, because I would imagine, you know, when you're thinking about minorities, and especially you being Chicago and from Chicago and my husband being from Chicago and even my daughter, they're about to say no to most things. Like, you're not about to come up into my anything and put something there. It's just, you kind of have that trust factor. So are you coming up against that a little bit in the communities?
Well, one, we don't have like independent people. So you can't have an air monitor at your house. It's more so of like churches or community organizations. And then I love my positionality as a young Black woman who is from our urban area. I'm able to connect with people in different ways where different scientists or engineers may not be able to. And so I haven't really come up with a lot of issues when it comes to air monitors. It's just a lot of back and forth because you have to go to the site and scope it out, and then you have to go install the air monitor, you have to collect the data and things like that.
So if a church is interested, maybe they're hearing someone from, I know that as soon as we get off air, I'm going to talk to Melanie because she's very involved in Exciting Central Tampa Baptist Church, and they're in an urban area, so I would really love to connect you with that church. But if there are other people hearing us right now that have connections with their church, how would they get in contact with you?
Yes, well, you can send me an email at echols1@usf.edu, and we can schedule a site visit, and it can be great.
Oh, perfect. And then we'll obviously put that in, I'm going to ask Bezel, we're going to put that link somewhere. We'll figure it out. But in any case, people can reach out to you as well. Now, you mentioned your background. Tell me a little bit about your background. I know that you're from Chicago. Tell me about how you grew up and what that was like. And, you know, you mentioned when the light bulb went off of, hey, I want to do environmental science. So let's back up there and talk a little bit more about your background.
Yes, absolutely. And so one thing I do want to acknowledge is I wasn't born alone. I had a twin sister. Her name is Sabrina. And a lot of people may or may not be aware, but the infant and maternal mortality rate for Black women in Black communities is another health disparity that happens at disproportional rates. So Black women, they die during birth, and then also their children die within a year of birth. And so my sister passed away right after our first birthday. She had cerebral palsy, and it was because of some mistakes of the doctors. And so I feel like that definitely had an influence on me growing up because I felt like I was always living for two people because my sister is not able to be here with me. And so then I was also raised in the house with my grandmother, and I basically took care of her from third grade to eighth grade. She passed away a week before my eighth grade graduation. And she was a nurse for 33 years. Out of all her brothers and sisters, the only one who went to college. So thanks to her, I'm a third generation college student. And so I love that. But growing up with her, she always planted perennials and peace lilies. And me and my dad used to go take plants from her house and plant them at our house. And we had cucumbers in the backyard.
In Chicago?
Yes, in Chicago.
Wait a second there. You grew up in an urban area, but you had cucumbers in your backyard.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that. How'd that work?
Even to this day, my parents have a huge garden in their backyard. They have it out of cat litter buckets and some reclaimed wood that my dad and his parents found, and they created garden beds. And every year it gets bigger and better, and it's beautiful. They have herbs like chocolate mint and lemon balm and okra and melons and tomatoes and cucumbers, and they just have so many things. And I love it there. And I tell people we don't have grass in our yard. It's just everything is raised up. And so I love going home. My mom makes like simple syrup out of the mint, and they canned tomatoes, and it's just absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And during high school, I did a program called Gardeneers, and I feel like that's kind of what started the garden. I think it was like my sophomore year in high school, and it was all about urban gardening and urban agriculture. And I told my dad about it, and he's always had a green thumb. And so he's like, okay, we're going to plant some tomatoes. And then after the tomatoes, it came the cucumbers. After the cucumbers, it came like just growing. And every year, have a great garden. And so in Chicago. So I know that it's possible to have environmentally friendly things in urban areas and to grow your own food. And so then when I went to Spelman, at the West Atlanta Watershed Alliance, I did environmental science work where I did invasive species removals. And then I also did interviews with community members to capture the stories of the Bush Mountain community, which is a historical Black community on the southwest side of Atlanta that is facing gentrification. So I wanted to capture these stories before, different people move into the area. And that's what inspired my book, See Through the Old Growth Forest.
Oh, let's get a good shot of this. Okay, Bezel, tell us exactly where to put it. Are we able to see it? Okay, perfect. So say what it is, and most important, say how people can get this.
Absolutely. So Musitu is actually the Swahili word for forest. And so I wanted to pay homage to my African roots and African heritage. And an old growth forest is a forest that's never been cut down, never been disturbed. It's very sacred. And the people that lived in this community told me a lot about the forest, and it was also sacred as well. And so I did invasive species removals in this forest to restore from English ivy, which is an invasive that came from England. And yes, you can get this book on Amazon. The illustrations are done by my beautiful Spelman sisters, Niara, and then my beautiful Spelman sister, Imani Blue and Nia McKenzie. They helped me tell the story in a great way. And this is a really great educational source as well. It has a glossary in the back and also fact sheets about native, non-native, and invasive species in Georgia. And so while I was at Spelman, it inspired me to do this because I didn't want my thesis or my research to just be like scientific based and only people in the Spelman community can have access to it. Anybody can have access to it, especially children. They have summer camps in this forest a lot. And so I wanted children and adults to be able to learn what are invasive species. They're not bad, they're just misplaced ultimately. And they don't have any checks and balances. And so that's what this story of Musitu is.
So when you say an invasive species, like I'm thinking an animal, but you're talking about more so plants.
Yes. Yes, so plants and animals can be, and sometimes people can be invasive species.
Yeah, you really
and,
got to elaborate on the people.
and
That's too
just,
funny.
Invasive species just means that there's no checks and balances. And so what that means is for English ivy specifically, it grows.
As a plant.
Yes.
Or like a weed.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, weeds are another word for invasive. Because
Oh.
no plant is a weed per se. It's just you don't want that there. So ultimately invasive is like you don't want it there because it throws off the balance of whatever you're trying to keep the balance of.
Got it.
And
Okay.
so specifically English ivy, it can survive in very, very, very cold weather. And it doesn't get that cold in Georgia. And so when everything else is dormant and when it's experiencing the seasons, English ivy grows and grows and grows and grows. And since it's viney, it can grow up trees and it can grow very, very wild. And so to remove it and see seeds that have been dormant for years and years grow back and native species grow back has been such an amazing
Joy.
experience.
Right.
And then also I love people as well. So I've led over maybe 500 volunteers within those 3 years removing the invasives because it's actually very, very fun and calming, and a lot of people come out for community service, and it's just quite amazing to like get in nature and be engulfed. A lot of people don't even know that there's a forest on the southwest side of Atlanta.
Yeah, because I was really about to like come back to that in a couple seconds. Like that you said there's a forest in Atlanta that you are helping to keep a green area.
Yes, absolutely. Just forest restoration and making sure the ecosystem is balanced.
And now, kind of what you're describing by removing invasive species, it sounds to me like you're pulling weeds.
Basically, that's what it seems like, yes. You're basically pulling them, but also, like, we nothing is like waste. Everything is like a cycle. And so we've made baskets out of them. We put them in the compost. We've donated to certain like animals to eat. So it's not just, everything does not go to waste per se, because just because it doesn't belong here does it not mean it does not fit somewhere
else. Wow. Now, why is this so important when we're looking at the health aspect in regards to the people who live there? Why is something as simple as, what we would consider pulling weeds, but in actuality is removing the invasive species? Why is that important, or why does that matter to people's health?
So when I was doing the interviews with community members, it was a specific community member. He was a veteran. His name is Ronnie Hill. He explained to me that when he was younger, they had natural plum trees and fruit trees and orange trees and the fish, and they played cowboys and Indians, and all within this forest that I was restoring. And the organization, West Atlanta Watershed Alliance, WAWA, that's what a lot of people call it, they're trying to turn it into a fruit forest. But it's more so of restoring it into a fruit forest, because the people that grew up there were able to tell me the story of the area, and we weren't there to be able to experience that. And so the natural environment has a lot of impact on people and vice versa. And it has an impact on our health as well. Being able to just go outside and grab an orange and eat it rather than having to go to a store, which you don't know what is in that orange. That's how it relates to our health, because our natural environment impacts our health and vice versa. Even if it's just going outside to lay in the grass and ground yourself, that has an impact on our health as well, because it helps our mental health and our physical health.
And it's one of the things, I love what you mentioned in regards to just being able to go and pick fresh fruit. Like way back in the day, I can with my own grandma, she grew up on a farm and was always able to just access fruits and vegetables with ease. And I was blessed enough to go to Zanzibar a couple of years ago. And that's one thing that I noticed. There was just fruit growing on the side of the road. And I asked our tour guide, I was like, why is that there? And he looked at me like I was crazy. He's like, so people can eat it. I was like, really? You can just come and just pick a banana and just eat it? And he's like, yes, they do that on purpose so that people who, maybe don't have the means to purchase fruit, there's always some availability literally along the side of the road so that everyone will have access to the fruit. That blew my mind, the fact that a place where we would consider, Americans are always thinking that, we're the rich country. But when you go to somewhere like Zanzibar and you understand and experience the love and the care that they do have for their people in regards to eating in some aspects, but then you see the other side where they don't have water, but it's a huge oxymoron. But in any case, typically you don't see places in America where food's growing along the side of the road for everybody to eat. But with this particular forest, that's what they say they're trying to do. But it was like that before. So you're trying to make it get back to how it was.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when it comes to restoration, we have a whole different conversation about water and sanitation and access to it. However, when it comes to restoring, a lot of, like you mentioned, your great-grandmother, and even my great-grandmother was a farmer, or having access to know the land. Like, they know the land like the back of their hand. They can know when it's going to rain. They can know, oh, there's maybe a fungus or a contamination here, or they know certain things. But nowadays, a lot of people do things for convenience. So no one wants to be a farmer anymore. Like, the amount of black farmers is less than 5% across the whole United States. But I also feel like sometimes that discredits people like my dad, who's outside just gardening every day, and my parents, or, the people that have their own urban gardens and things like that. But, yeah.
Man, I think that's so important to understand that, something as simple as removing the invasive species / pulling the weeds is going to help this forest to be able to produce fruit. And when I asked about, well, how does that affect health? Because now you have healthier things to eat. So what made, you said you took the environmental science class, and that's kind of what made you switch up and become more into environmental science instead of into medicine. But the anthropology part, let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I kind of was already doing anthropology before I knew that it was anthropology. At Spelman, I took an introduction to anthropology course, and I was like, oh, it's to fill my social science elective. But I didn't know that it was kind of foreshadowing my future. And so anthropology, so environmental justice kind of combines environmental science and anthropology because it's more so people facing environment and people, how the environment affects people and how people affect the environment. And so currently under the advisement of Dr. Christian Wells at the University of South Florida, I am doing a stormwater redevelopment project. And so I work with engineers and scientists and anthropologists like myself to basically restore the stormwater ponds. So stormwater ponds here in Florida are here to manage flooding ultimately. And so before the water goes into Tampa Bay through the sewers and everything like that, the water goes into a pond. However, if the pond is neglected, instead of becoming a asset for community and the environment, it becomes like, detriment. It's like,
Because it's
a
polluted?
burden. Yes, the pollutants. However, is something called green infrastructure. As I mentioned in my bio, green infrastructure, which basically takes into account the natural processes. We hear about photosynthesis and we hear about the carbon cycle, all of those things that we learn. It uses those when we engineer with the engineers. So it's these things called like floating wetlands or biofiltration systems and all of these very complex things that the engineers do. And we basically put them in stormwater ponds to increase the health of the water, but also other green infrastructure can also increase the mental health of people in the environment. And so, for example, sometimes you may see like a fountain in the middle of the pond.
Right.
People are like, oh, that's beautiful. Oh,
Right.
I love it here. I just want to come and read a book. But that's also to filter the oxygen through the pond. People don't know when water is still and is dormant, it kind of like becomes a breeding ground for
Yeah,
different
the
pollutants and
mosquitoes.
bacterials and everything like that. But when you have a fountain in the pond, it circulates. And so it's a moving and living system. And so by that happening, it not only improves the quality of the water, but also improves the people that go and visit there. They're like, oh, this is beautiful. Sometimes I just come here and meditate, I relax, and, taking walks out here, it helps my mental health. And so that's the other project that I'm doing with anthropology and with scientists and with engineers. And I'm doing interviews with community members to see, well, we're redeveloping this area. What would you like to see here?
Oh, wow. And she's actually coming to do one of those interviews with me and Jarreau. Both of us work at Elevate Tampa Bay. So I'm excited, near the Middleton area. I'm excited to be interviewed and have input into what this particular area can turn into in regards to the pond that's over there. Now, obviously at Spelman, because it's an HBCU, you were in this environment, this educational environment, clearly with a lot of minorities like yourself. Once you got out of that environment, what does it look like now as a black female going into what you're in?
Wow, I talk about this quite often being here in Tampa, being totally transparent. Chicago is very segregated. So I went to a majority black high school, probably 99.9% black, and then I went to Spelman, which is the #1 HBCU, historical black college.
Let's not get carried away now. I went to Hampton. My husband went to Tennessee State. My child is at Tennessee State. She's still saying the #1. All right, I have to let you go. You're my guest.
And it's just a amazing place for black women that have like minds. And Morehouse is right across the street, and that's an all men's HBCU. And then we also have Clark, it's co-ed. And so I've never been a minority, to say the least, until I came to Tampa.
Welcome to Tampa.
And it was just a culture shock. Usually people talk about culture shocks the other way around when they're like, oh, just in a different place, when you're like, this is a totally, completely different culture. However, with my mentor, Abby, and my mentor, Dr. Wells, they really helped me, have a foundation and understand, different things that are going on. Sometimes it's a little hard to make friends. However, the research that I do, I'm oftentimes around like-minded people like myself. Mm-hmm. And I am super grateful for Spelman to teach me how to continue to be myself no matter what room that I enter. No matter the way my hair looks, I can still provide useful information to the environment, no matter what I dress like, what I look like, or even sometimes the way I say things. And also that's a strength to be able to connect with people in different ways instead of using academic jargon.
Wow, that is so uplifting in so many different ways, because I think in my generation, you weren't necessarily, you were taught more so to assimilate and to fit in, especially with the hair thing. Like that just, in fact, one of my jobs that I had at Home Shopping Network. Hair was a huge issue. And now I look on air and I see the braids and I see the beauty and I see the natural styles. We didn't have that opportunity to allow ourselves to just be ourselves because there weren't things like laws like the Crown Law. That didn't exist. You could straight up get fired for your hair because I did. So it's a blessing that you're in a new generation and a new age where you can embrace yourself. But I love the fact that you talk so much about Spelman and HBCUs. We have to take a short break. When we continue, we're going to talk more about her educational journey. And the big secret is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were able to get a lot of your education completely paid for. All right, we'll be right back to learn her secrets.
Hey, this is Agent Wright, better known as Mr. Clean. You looking for some great barbecue? Come see them two brothers on the grill, located at 423 Virginia Street, Charleston, West Virginia. We got ribs, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, collard greens, mac and cheese, baby. Come get some and get you a nice, smooth cigar. 304-550-4431. That is 304-550-4431. Come get some, baby. The Rib Man, mama, the Rib Man.
Hey, this is Tampa Bay Tammy. Don't forget to pick up your copy of In Touch News.
We're playing your favorite old school.
Today's
R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Call Ricky. Ask Ricky. You need medical or a lawyer. I got the man to do the legwork for you. We tried the other ones before, so believe we 100 down. 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay. Call Ricky, he coming. He taking care of state of Florida. Grab a pen of sundown. 184-361 Rick. That's 184-361-425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, plus your boy stay by. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361 Rick. Call Ricky, ask Ricky is a legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and giving you the best medical treatment and recovery. Now 184-361 Rick. That's 184-361-7425. Ricky. Ask Ricky.
And it's all about navigating you to nuggets of information, hopefully worth thousands of dollars. Very special Father's Day show that we have here today. Another shout out to my own husband, Robert Blaylock, fantastic father. Bezel, our producer, who is another fantastic father, making sure that this show comes your way. And Serena Eccles is our guest today, and I'm hearing that her parents are really participating in this show. So a big shout out to her dad as well, who helped her understand the importance of gardening. Now, we said because I just told Serena in the break, I could literally talk to her for like 3 days. I mean, she is such a amazing wealth of information that you really just don't hear Black females talking about. I mean, period, point blank. So I'm excited to hear you talking about something that's so different, period, and just really representing us in such a amazing way. But we do have to get down to the cash part. All right, so let's break down how you were able to get your education paid for. And we're talking about your undergrad and your graduate degree.
Yes.
I can't really wait to hear this story. Show us where the cash is at.
Yes, absolutely. And so the first thing that I want to say is you do not have to be smart to get scholarships. A lot of people like, oh, in order to get funding, you have to be smart. You have to do certain things. However, if you work at a job like McDonald's, you can get a scholarship. Like my friend, she worked there during high school, and she was able to get some funding from them. And the scholarship that I got to go to Spelman was called the Bonner Scholarship, Bonner. And it's at different colleges and universities, and it's directly for community service. However, to get accepted to colleges, you do have to have, certain GPAs and certain requirements. And some scholarships do have certain GPA requirements. But the scholarship that I got was all about community service. It was a 4-year scholarship, and they did a lot of professional development with us. It was a cohort of 20 young women. Oh, I love my Bonner sisters. Big shout out to y'all. We're still in communication to this day, and I love them the best. And it's so great to do community service, the thing that you love to do, but also do it with other young Black women that love to do community service. The first year in the scholarship program, all of us have to do teaching, and so we're all placed at different schools. And then the years after that, you can do whatever program you like to do. So you can do like policy work, you can do environmental work, you can do teaching work, and they have like a list of organizations in Atlanta that you can basically volunteer with, and you have to do about 20 hours a week. The organization that I started to volunteer with my sophomore year, which is COVID year, was the West Atlanta Watershed Alliance. But I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Nataki Jelks and Anna Marie Shreves, because they were able to find virtual service for me to do through the U.S. Forest Service through the West Atlanta Watershed Alliance.
Morehouse did that too. They had a whole entire public health virtual opportunity for students. My son was able to do that when he was in high school. So, I love the fact that you took advantage of those COVID years or that COVID time to still do something productive. Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, absolutely. HBCUs always find opportunities. Sometimes you just have to go search for them. And so from sophomore year to senior year at Spelman, at the West Atlanta Watershed Alliance, that's when I did the invasive species removal, and then I did some virtual work as well. And all of that was funded through the Bonner Scholarship.
Okay, so Bonner, Bonnor.
Bonner.
Okay, well, we all know I can't.
And it's only at certain colleges and universities. Some places you apply, like Morehouse, you can apply to the program, but some places you're selected. So at Spelman, they go through all the applications, and you're selected. I think maybe like the past couple of years, they had people apply since after COVID. But normally, like, you're selected for it, or you can apply and go to the school and like inquire about it.
So, like, can someone just Google Bonner and find the application process and find out what they need to do and what schools it's at?
Yes, they can definitely find out what schools it's at, and then you have to see the school and see their application process. Because some people you're selected, some schools you have to apply. So it just depends.
Oh, cool.
And I also wanted to mention, there's not just scholarships. There's scholarships, fellowships, internship programs, and grants. And so fellowships are one of my favorites because you get that professional development. Sometimes you get mentorship, but you also get some type of stipend. And so one of the best fellowships I was a part of was called Sharing the Power from Volt Energy, and it ultimately was specifically for HBCU students to basically learn about renewable energy. And they gave us a really, really great scholarship.
Is this during the summer, or you did it during the school year?
It was during the summer, but it was only one day during the summer, and it was virtual. And they provided scholarships. So
that's what I was going to say. Hold up, wait a minute.
Yes.
You did one day of virtual work, and they gave you a scholarship.
Absolutely. And it wasn't even a whole day. It was maybe like 3 hours. And so because their whole goal is to share with HBCU, so we can be aware about this knowledge, because that gap, they're trying to fill in a gap. And they also want to give you incentive because they want to invest into your education. What was
the name of that one again, real quick?
Sharing the Power. They actually just came out with their cohort for this year, but it's next year and next year and next year. Sharing the Power, and it's sponsored by Volt Energy, which is also owned by African American. And so also, specifically, when I was going to Spelman, even though the Bonner Scholarship paid for a lot of it, they only pay what your EFC does not. Your EFC is your expected family contribution through FAFSA. So once you fill out FAFSA, which you really, really need to do, the favorite F word, you really need to fill that out because it tells you how much they're expected your family to contribute. And if it's 0, that's like the best, because most of the time, a lot of scholarships will tell you, oh, we can cover everything besides that amount. And if that amount
so let me stop you real quick, because everything you're saying completely correct. They just changed the names of it. Oh. So instead of EFC with the FAFSA, which FAFSA is FAFSA, because I know sometimes it sounds like I'm saying FAFSA, but it's FAFSA. They've changed the EFC to the Student Aid Index. And they've actually taken that 0 all the way down to a negative 1,500. So because there's levels of aid. Someone may have a 0, but just because you have a 0, you could still make, maybe your family income is $25,000 versus someone who would have a negative 1,500, well, I should probably say maybe your family income is 40 or 50,000 and you've got like a zero, but the negative 1,500, it may just be a single mom by herself with 2-3 kids. And so, they end up with a household income that's lower. So that's why they would have, someone could get a negative number now. So it's really interesting what they've done with the FAFSA, but I'm so glad you brought that up because it is so important to fill it out. Could you have done many of the things that you did if you hadn't filled that out?
No, not at all, because a lot of times they ask you for your FAFSA ID with these scholarships and things like that. And during lunch my senior year in high school, I was in the counseling's office every single day, in the library every single day, printing out scholarships, sending them through snail mail, doing scholarship portals and everything like that. And I did want to talk about some of the funding sources. So you have private, local, national, and global. And so the Bonner Scholarship, which I told you about, that's national. Sharing the Power Foundation, that's national. When it comes to local and private scholarships, so if you have a story, you tell it. So at the beginning, I talked about my twin sister, and I talked about my grandmother. And that's the story that I told a lot within these scholarship essays. And it's specific scholarships that are out there specifically to the Chicagoland area, one called GGG Ministries, Giving the Glory to God. And they literally give money to people who have experienced loss. They have memorial scholarships. They have experienced loss, and they want to be able to invest in someone else's future. And so what they do is they have committees, they have these people, they have donors, they have a gala every year. And it's also one called the Marcus Bradshaw Foundation. And they have golf tournaments, and they lost their father, and just things like that. And all of those places have invested in my future because I had a story and it was similar to theirs. And they're like, wow, even though we lost, we want to create something beautiful. And Reverend Gloria, big shout out to Reverend Gloria, she calls all the scholarship recipients her children because she lost both of her sons due to unfortunate circumstances. And she decided to make this whole scholarship program. And now she has even more and more children than she can ever imagine. And a lot of these scholarship programs come with mentors as well. And so I had a mentor, and now I am a mentor. So it's so great to, give back after so many people have invested into you, whether it's emotionally, spiritually, academically, financially as well.
Did you have everything paid for when you went to Spelman, or did you kind of just go on a wing and a prayer, paid what you could, and then found the rest?
When I went to Spelman, everything was paid for. By the time I got to senior year, I was scrapping for money because my EFC, during that time, that's what it was called, it continued to increase. So the Bonner Scholarship wasn't covering that part. And so towards my senior year and junior year, I had to take out loans. And, there's some loan forgiveness programs and things like that. I'm still looking for some. But, yeah, freshman year, I wish I would have known a lot of the financial literacy things that I know now, because I would have saved some of that overflow of money that I had from outside scholarships, internal scholarships. Like, I just had a whole spreadsheet full of scholarships and that I tracked in, because I knew that my parents could not afford for me to go to college. And I saw what my sister went through. My sister actually got the Bonner Scholarship as well. And so I was like, wow, okay, so I could get this, but I can't totally rely on this. And so I have to continue to apply and apply and apply. And when you apply to these scholarships, it's some things that majority of them require. One is a transcript. So, and that is a process. I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with Parchment, but Parchment is a third party where you literally have to pay to get your transcript sent directly to whoever you're trying to send it to. So when I applied to the public health program, send it to them or to the scholarship, or you can pay it for them to send it to you. And those are your official transcripts. Depending on the school, you may or may not have to pay. Because like at Georgia State, when I took a class over there, I didn't have to pay for my transcripts. But at Spelman, you have to pay. USF, you have to pay. Also, a resume.
So you're talking about those are for your college transcripts, and you have to get those. Okay, we talk a lot about your high school transcripts, and that's why one of my F's is find your counselor, because your counselor is going to give you the instructions of how you get your transcript sent to wherever it is you want to go. It's different for every single school, different for every high school, every county,
and every state.
Everything. It's crazy, but, that's something you got to do.
Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to mention is like a resume or a CV. Resumes are really just to show everything that you have done. And me and my friend was talking yesterday about how we have a hospitality resume, and then we have like a professional academic resume. So hospitality is like, if we want to get a job somewhere, maybe like a restaurant or, because my little cousin, she was using her hospitality resume for academic things. and I had to, explain to her and be able to help her out with that. And so having, one specifically for academics, specifically with any research you're doing, community service is good to go on there. Just organizations that you're involved in at school and things like that.
So let's stop there, because I love what you just said. Basically, McDonald's and Walmart is not going to help you with your school scholarships. That's your hospitality type of a resume.
You can apply for a scholarship with them, and you may want to add that you worked for them on that specific one. But every time you apply to any program, you need to edit your resume specifically for that school or for that scholarship. And so it would be useful if you were applying to a McDonald's scholarship to put that you work there. But most of the time, any other thing, don't put that you work there.
Right, because you have to understand that's a really important thing about the Bright Futures Scholarship now. Florida recently let work hours count for Bright Futures. So you have a whole lot of kids now who are just, they're going to work and they're not doing their community service. That is a huge detriment to scholarships, because now some scholarships, some companies will give you scholarships because you work, but there are a lot more other scholarships, and correct me if I'm wrong, where you're getting more money, or you have the opportunity to apply for more scholarships because of the community service that you've done. And that's what you said the whole Bonner one even was.
Mm-hmm. And also, a lot of scholarships that I've applied to, they ask about your community service as well. And that could be church, that could be Boy Scouts, that could just be you literally volunteering in the garden with my local neighbors. Like my parents, they give baskets when they have an overflow to community members. That's community service, even if it's not through an official organization. It's good to include those things as
And
well.
even stuff simple as reading. I mean, there's so many kids out there, especially your younger elementary students, they don't have anyone at home to read to them. So for you to be able to, high school gets out at like 2 o'clock, some of them here. So you could easily leave high school, go to the elementary school that's very close, set up a reading hour where you just simply read books to these younger students. And I know it sounds like, that could count for me. Yes, something as simple as that will count for community service, and it makes a huge difference in that student's life who is now having the opportunity to have a book read to them.
Absolutely. And for those who may not like to read, I will also say my little cousin, shout out to Capri, I love you so much. She just got a job at the YMCA. And when I tell you she loves it, she loves it. She's plays basketball her whole life, and she loves to work out. She's into fitness. So if you are an athlete, you can still do community service. Find your local recreational center, the YMCA, or the schools around. They may have summer camps that you can volunteer at. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be academic. You don't have to tutor someone to have community service and things like that. And then sometimes organizations like the YMCA, they have scholarships for their employees because they want people to succeed. So it's not like you're just serving the community. It goes in vain. Even if you're not getting an investment right back, you still get a return on investing your time in a specific place. And so for the athletes out there, whether you play football, volleyball, tennis, soccer, go find some kids and teach them how to play.
Yes, there's your community service right there, and you're getting some physical practice too. So I mean, but community service is so important. I understand there are definitely students who have to work, and you'll use those work hours for your Bright Futures. But keep in mind that community service is still so very important and key to so many more scholarships. Okay, so it sounds like we talked about your local scholarships, your national scholarships. You said global?
Yes, and so once you graduate from undergraduate, they have these things called fellowships. And one that my sister did, she studied in Malaysia, and it's called the Fulbright. They also have the Truman. It's so many of these huge fellowships that you can go international, or it can be here in the United States, and you just connect with people internationally. And a lot of times it's like cultural experiences, but you also get to do service. One of my friends, shout out to Bria, she's in Spain right now teaching English through one of those global programs. But those are more for people who have graduated their undergraduate and they're looking for something.
I definitely want to make sure that my daughter, even though she's only 14, I want to make sure that she connects with your sister, because I think that Fulbright scholarship or that Fulbright opportunity would be so useful to her. She's interested in international business, international lobbying. So yeah, we need to talk about that offline too.
Yes, absolutely. And my sister actually, shout out to Christina, she just became the president of the Georgia chapter of the Fulbright Association.
Oh, wow.
For the Alum Association. Sorry about that. But I'm so proud of her. She's so amazing.
Definitely.
And she inspires me every day. And so some of the other requirements, they may have you have a personal statement. So if you have a story, whether it's sad, whether it's happy, overcoming challenges, tell your story. Like, please tell your story, because a lot of people would literally just invest into you because you have a story and they feel connected to it. And be very transparent with your story as well. And then some scholarships will also have an essay prompt where they have something like, oh, if you had $1 million, what would you do with it?
Right.
Yeah, or they'll say like, oh, what is an adversity that you came over? So they may have a personal statement and plus want you to do another essay as well. But it's good to keep a document with all of your essays so you can maybe like recycle and refilter and refurbish them as you continue to apply for different opportunities.
I think that's so important too, that you don't have to have a new one per se for every single thing. You have your basic, kind of like a template, which is your basic information that's going to be the same no matter what scholarship you apply to. And then you have like your beginnings that tailors a little bit more to whatever the prompt is or to whatever the scholarship is about, and then your ending that you kind of use to once again tailor. So it sounds like a lot, but once you get that basic middle, it's the information is the same. Your story doesn't change. Your story is the same. Your grades, your community service, your academics, your what you love, those types of things stay the same. And since it's summertime right about now, that's what you should be doing. Hint, hint. Is developing that particular essay that you'll be able to use not only for the Common App and for your college applications, but also your story for the various different scholarships that you're going to be interested in. Real quick, go back, because you talked about being in the library and just searching and searching. Take me through that. What does a student listening right now who's motivated, they may have a little bit that they're going to get from their student aid index, but let's say they want to go to school out of state. Like, what is that? Or they want to go to a private HBCU. What does that search look like? Like the first day you started, what did you do? Just go in the library, start Googling stuff? Like, what did you do?
Absolutely. One thing I want to say is that it is possible the scholarships can come to you, but majority of the time you have to search. It is a process, and sometimes it's very hard if you're applying to all of these things and you spend all your time, and then sometimes you may not get accepted. So you have to be okay with getting no. And then sometimes they don't even tell you anything at all. They don't tell you that you got the scholarship or that you didn't get the scholarship. They just don't tell you anything because maybe they have too many applicants. But I would say the first thing is find your counselor and ask. So for Chicago Public Schools, they had a whole database of scholarships specifically for Chicago Public School students. It's one particularly called the Wentcher Foundation, WENTCHER. And they invest $10,000 every single year for a student to go to school. Now, there is stipulations depending on what school you go to. Like Spelman, they do this thing called displacement, so you don't get that money, but I was able to use it for summer school to take some classes, and I was able to get like book vouchers through that.
Really good.
And stuff like that. So you really have to advocate for yourself when it comes to your funds. And so find out if there's a database specifically for your school district for scholarships.
For Hillsborough County, it is. It's called Hillsborough Education Foundation. And what's so super cool about those particular scholarships is just one application.
Absolutely.
It's one essay, one application, and then each scholarship will connect with you if they want more information about you. But remember, Hillsborough Education Foundation, that's the first place you can start. And then for those of you who are in Pinellas Education Foundation. Probably if you're in the whole state of Florida, this name of your school district, an education foundation. That's a good way for any of you who live in Florida to start finding those local scholarships that are geared specifically for students who go to school in a specific school district.
Absolutely. And then the next step I would take is whatever colleges and universities that you're interested in, go on their websites and go to their databases to see what scholarships that they have available there specifically. Specifically, if you want to go to an HBCU, there are so many. The United Negro College Fund, UNCF.org. They have one application, and then it shows you a whole bunch of other scholarships that you are eligible for. You just have to complete the rest of the materials. That's just one that I can think of. The HBCU Green Fund, they are the ones who published my book. They are the ones who have invested in my education for the last 3 years,
What
and
is
they're
that?
so
I've never
amazing.
even heard of that.
And so the HBCU Green Fund, the
Green, Green.
yes, and so
Okay.
it's all about getting HBCU students into environmentalism and environmental sustainability. Whether it's from, they taught us how to do energy audits of buildings, so we can talk about the efficiency of buildings and getting the bill lower, but also producing less heat, which is causing to, the climate change and global warming. And then I even went to Senegal, Africa with them. And we did an eco spring break where we were fighting deforestation. We were planting trees in sub-Saharan Africa to build a fruit forest there. And then I also got that cultural experience. It was amazing experience. This year they went to Ghana. I wasn't able to go because I was in Spain visiting my friend. But next year I hope I can go with them as an alum for the program. But they fund you to a certain extent, but also without knowing them, I would have never got connected with Sharing the Power Foundation. Or I went to New Orleans for a conference. So not only do they may provide you some funding and financial support, but also they provide you with other resources. But you have to be the one to get on it. So
Let me ask you this. Do you think you would have found all of these things if you went to a PWI?
No, absolutely not. Because even the HBCU Green Fund, that's not something my school told me about. It was one professor that I had. And she said, Serena, I think you would be really, really good for this fellowship. I'm going to send it to you. And it wasn't through the school. It was through a professor that knew somebody that knew somebody. And because that professor saw something in me and they cared about me. There's so many professors that I had at Spelman and a lot of them are Spelman alum. So they invest into your well-being. And I don't think I would have gotten that just that much invested from that many professors. Maybe at a PBWI you maybe get one or two, but almost all my professors were like a mom or like a aunt. And now they're my Spelman sisters because they graduated from Spelman too, majority of them.
And then also you have to understand that, when companies, when organizations, when people are looking for black people, they're going to go to an HBCU because we're there. So just, by just sheer numbers, if a company and organization is really wanting to diversify and they really care about equity, they are going to look at HBCUs. I'm a huge HBCU advocate. I just am for undergrad specifically. But you're at USF now for your graduate degree, and we only have like what 2 minutes? We got like 2 minutes left. I don't even understand. Okay, so we got 2 minutes. We need 2 more days, but let's talk a little bit about USF quickly and how you're helping to get your master's degree paid for.
Yes, absolutely. So the grant that I'm currently on is founded by the Environmental Protection Agency, and so that's a governmental agency. But the only reason I found out about it is because my advisor, Dr. Christian Wells, him and his colleagues applied for this grant, and within that grant, they get graduate assistance. And for some grants, you get tuition waivers for those graduate assistants. And sometimes they get stipends, sometimes they get health care. And so it's so many benefits. For me doing that summer program while I was still at Spelman, it's called the NSF REU program, and they're all across the country, the research experience for undergraduates. So if you're an undergraduate and you're looking for research experience over the summer, they'll pay for everything and they will pay you. And that opportunity connected me with Dr. Wells, and he was like, hey, Serena, just apply to our program. And then he was like, oh, you got accepted, and I have a grant, and I have funding. And so that has been such a blessing to me for going outside my comfort zone and coming in. NSF.
You have been such a wealth of information, and I got to put you a little bit to work because you talked about so many different things. Can you please email me those different things that you talked about? Because I think the easiest way for anyone watching that, you heard some of this, but you're trying to figure out how to find the information. I'm going to have her email me, and then you all only have to remember Money Michelle, MoneyMichelle 03 at Gmail. So moneymichelle03 at Gmail. I'll make sure if you email me, I'll get the answers to your questions. Serena, I can't believe we're totally out of time. This has been absolutely amazing. And I think that this is going to just have to be a part 1, and we'll do maybe a part 2 in the next coming months. Congratulations on all of everything that you've been doing. I can't wait to talk with you more about the pond thing that we're going to be doing over in Middleton. I'm sure you love my professional name, the pond thing. But, and we have the air monitors too. Oh, that I need to talk to you about for the particular church. So lots of information that we just received today. Thank you so much. Quick couple of seconds, last word, Serena.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so grateful to be here.
Perfect. This is a wonderful Father's Day show. Again, a big, huge shout out to my dad, David Ragland, my husband, Robert Blaylock. Your dad's name again?
Darnell Eccles.
And of course, Bezel, woo, brings us this show every single day. Thanks again for watching College Cash. I'm Money Michelle. Toodaloo.